Alrighty, hello. I'm going to be doing my presentation on NASA. So, what is NASA and what does NASA do? NASA stands for National Aeronautics and Space Administration. NASA is an independent agency founded by the U.S. government. NASA was created in 1958, headquartered in Washington, D.C. NASA is responsible for the U.S. civilian space program and aerospace research. NASA scientists conduct research such as Earth science, planetary science, heliophysics, and astrophysics. These are some NASA missions that I will talk about since Project Mercury was the first one. It was the first project, and it was the first human spaceflight running from 1958 to 1963, and the goal of that was to orbit a spacecraft around Earth and recover both man and spacecraft safely, and the Freedom 7 was a part of that. And then the Apollo 11 is actually very well known for Neil Armstrong being the first astronaut to walk on the moon in 1969. So Project Mercury, which was mission Freedom 7, took place in 1961. The goal of that was to determine a man's capabilities in space environment as well as returning safely home from space. Who was in the spacecraft at the time? It was Alan Shepard Jr. There's a few issues with the vehicle and space systems. However, the mission winded up being successful. As I mentioned, Apollo 11 was very well known. It took place in 1969. The goal was set by President John F. Kennedy, and the goal of that was for the first humans to walk on the moon and return home safely. This included Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Armstrong and Aldrin spent 21 hours on the moon's surface, and the mission was successful. It took a total of 8 days. So NASA conducts planetary studies, as I've mentioned. To this day, NASA continues to study our solar system, just so we have a better understanding of the origin as well as the history behind it. And they also take a look at other planetary objects and just to see what is out there and also answer any questions we as humans may have. There are some questions that may never be answered, which is kind of interesting. And how do they do these planetary studies? They use telescopes and sensors along with the help of the U.S. Air Force as well as the National Science Foundation. So if you ever look up at the sky and wonder, look at the shape of that moon. It is actually going through phases. Studying the moon is important because the moon, it tells us our origin of Earth and the solar system. It is our neighbor to Earth. There are 8 phases of the moon, which I will talk about in just a second. And what the moon phase is it basically is when the sun always illuminates half the moon while the other half remains dark, but how much we see of the illuminated half changes as the moon travels through the orbit. So that's what are the phases they go through, and I'm going to show you what they are right now. So these are the 8 phases. As you can see, this is how the moon is seen from as Earth. You can see totally different phases, and that's what they go through. There are 8 of them, and this is the new moon, the waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full, waning gibbous, last quarter, and waning crescent. I apologize if I mispronounced those, but I thought that was an interesting thing to learn as well. So what is the future for NASA? It's still very known to this day. NASA's mission is to continue to be the story of human exploration, technology, and science. NASA actually wants to go back to the moon, and they want to learn more about what it will take to support human explorations to Mars and beyond. NASA engineers, they still want to develop new technologies to challenge this space exploration. And in 2024, there is a mission for astronauts to land on the lunar South Pole. I'm not exactly sure if this was the mission that they were talking about, but I've read that there was supposed to be one in 2020 and they had to kind of put it on hold because of COVID. So hopefully 2024 we'll see something like this. If not, who knows? If you want to work for NASA, it's hard, but not impossible. And necessarily, if you want to work for NASA, doesn't mean you have to be an astronaut. That's what a lot of people refer it to. But if you would like to work for NASA, you could also be a scientist, an engineer. I work in IT, and there's actually a whole bunch of careers out there that NASA offers. But if you would like to work for NASA, you must be a U.S. citizen between the ages of 30 to 35. You must hold a master's degree in a STEM-related field. I think math as well, or that could also count. You also need professional experience, at least 2 years in a STEM-related field. And you also have to pass the NASA long duration flight astronaut physical. I wonder if you would need this requirement for the IT part. I'm not sure, but I probably would think so. I made a fun little Kahoot game, because who does not love Kahoot? I made it based off this presentation if you want to take a look at it. Basically, just here's the link, QR code. Made some fun questions based off this PowerPoint to test your knowledge on NASA and what I've talked about. These are my sources. I also forgot to add in, my apologies, if you want to take a look at the NASA website, it is actually very interesting. There are so many resources out there, a lot of information if you want to read about it, so much to explore on there. And this is my presentation.